Okay, we've got another car to fix here today on the Ozzstar's Cars channel. Behind me we have a 2013 Hyundai Santa Fe, and the complaint is no AC. So the air conditioner is not working, and I want to take you along with me here so we can figure out what's going on and get this thing fixed. So let's start the car and fire the AC up. And I want to make sure the radio's off here. Yeah, we're good. Anyhow, so here's our AC controls. And I've got a thermometer, almost mispronounced that word right there, in the vent. What is that, 75.5 degrees on the vent. Let's set this for the mode, will be the upper. We're all the way down, the temperature is set to its lowest point. Oop, make sure you got that. And let's hit the AC button. So the light comes on, the indicator light, also says AC here. But I didn't hear the compressor kick on. Let me turn on the fan. And let's put this on recirculate. Yeah, it's lit up blue. It's hard to see, there's a glare there. Anyhow, I don't feel any coolness coming out of the vent. Hopefully you can hear me. Let me lower this down a little bit. We'll let it run for a second. We're still at 75 degrees. So right now the temperature out there, what's that say, 74, so we're pretty close to what's coming out of the vent. And by now we should see a change. It's actually going up, 76. So let's go under the hood. The next thing I want to do is check the pressures, to see how much refrigerant is in the system. So let's take a look-see here. So over on the passenger side we have our high side. This is our discharge line. It has a cap. You take this little cap off. Now the low side is down there. Yeah, you guys can see it right there, and it has an L on it, so that makes it easy. Now your fittings are two different sizes, so you really can't mess that up. On a R134A is what this takes, the refrigerant. So what I'll do now is let's get our gauges. I'll hook up the high and the low. Let's hook that on there. And blue is your low side, and your red line should be for your high pressure side. And these just pop on. There's some couplers right here. In fact, let me zoom you in a little bit, get a little better view in case you're not familiar with this. I don't know what you'll be able to see, what you can't see, but we'll try. All right, so let's get our red hooked up, or high I should say. Down here now, I have the car up on ramps, so it's a little higher, it's a little easier to work. And then what I'll do is open these valves. Let me make sure this is closed. Both these up here, you can't see what I'm doing, I just made sure that's closed. I'll show you in a second. And basically just open these up, and then we'll take a peek up here at our gauges right there. Okay, and it's showing, yeah, you can see that we've got about, I don't know, it's like 5 psi here, and yeah, about 5 on the low and the high. This is your low, here's your high. That means the system's out of refrigerant. So let me get on the camera here, and we'll talk about some options we have. So we know the refrigerant's low and there's a leak somewhere. So there's a couple things we could do. We could put some air pressure in there right now and force some air in there, see if we hear a leak. We could we could spray the soapy water trick. You take a squirt bottle, spray down all the different areas where there's possibility it could leak. Could be the valve, could be the compressor seal, could be a line. But in this case, we're going to do a visual. I've already took a peek at it, and there's a common problem here with these Hyundai Kias. These lines, these AC lines tend to leak. So there's aluminum line, then there's a crimp to a rubber hose to make a bend, because usually it's like a sharp bend and they need to keep out vibration. You don't want an entire aluminum line because mounted to the chassis right to your compressor, because then it could fail, it could crack. Just like in the exhaust system, there's a flex joint there. You have to have some kind of wiggle room, so to speak. Anyway, I'm going to take you over here. I believe it's this high side discharge line, and the reason being it gets oily. So there's PAG oil in your refrigerant. So the R134A has PAG oil, and that oil lubricates the compressor. Obviously, it's going to stop corrosion to a degree also, but that's what it's in there for, and it's compatible with the refrigerant. All right, try to keep the camera as steady as possible. So let me disconnect this high side here. So it's just a coupler that pops off. And there's a valve down in here, so that's always a good place to check for a leak. You could put refrigerant in with a dye, a UV dye. That's another good way. So eventually it's going to leak out, and you'll see wherever the leak is, you'll see the dye with a blue light, ultraviolet light, and some funky looking sunglasses you wear. But anyway, there's joints here, like there's O-rings where these lines meet other lines, and here's like an example of where an aluminum line meets the rubber line right here, and these could leak here. And what I think I'm seeing is, well, let me see if I can get some light on it. It's a little tricky to film. Hold on, bear with me. Bear with me. So here is a high side line that goes down this way, and what I notice further down on the rubber part, I'll take you under the car, I see oil leaking, not from here, but the other end of where that rubber hose is. It's probably like a foot long, and that's a common issue. So you do a visual, and it should be fairly, you know, well, it should be dry. So like this one here, there's no oil. Oop, there's no oil right here. Okay, and I'm going to show you down below. Like this one here is dry. I'll take you down there and let's take a peek. So let's climb under the car, under the passenger side, and I'll start pointing this stuff so you can get a better idea. So hopefully the camera won't be too crazy shaky. I'm going to use my screwdriver to point. So here's our compressor right here, and there's a line right here. This is our, ooh, where am I pointing? Right there. That's our discharge line. For the high pressure side, there's a bolt or nut right here and an O-ring fitting that seals this up at this point. But here's the line that comes down that I just showed you from the top. And I don't know, hopefully the camera's picking it up. I believe it is. But here it's very oily. The bottom of this hose is saturated. You could see, well, I don't know if you can see. Can you guys see it? Let's see. Let me see. I don't think I can get it. Let me try a little. There we go. It's real greasy right here. It's super greasy and dirty and oily. And this has that green PAG oil dripping off of it. And evidently it dripped so bad, it dripped down here onto this splash shield. And let me get my light out. And what happened was, you can see how wet this is right along here. And that's all that nasty green PAG oil, yellowish green, runs all the way along here, and it's dripped down directly below. So I know that line is bad. Okay, I can see how bad it is. These other lines here in front of our face, this one is fine, that one's dry. I can visually see it looks fine. No oil there. So what we're going to do is disconnect this line from down here and then from up top. Now there's no pressure in the system, so if you still had pressure and you're going to release this, you know, make sure that you have it evacuated. If you're working at home, you can go to a shop, have them suck out the refrigerant. Sometimes they'll even give you a deal when they're going to refill it, so you know they recycle it. So maybe you could do the repair and come back. I'm sure that's not all shops, but I'm just giving you a suggestion. You know, you're not supposed to release this stuff into the atmosphere purposely. So, you know, ozone layers and bad sunburns. So anyway, let me disconnect this. I don't believe I'll be able to get this on film down here. It's really, it might not look it, but in person it's very tight. Right up in here is where I got to go. And I think what I'll do is just drop this bottom shield. It's just a plastic shield with some bolts, well, like 20 bolts. I'll drop that down. That'll give me more access to get my hands up in here to get that disconnected. So I got the 10mm nut loose, or off I should say, and now I just got to pop this sucker out and get it out. You can see there's the O-ring, the green one, and now we'll go up top and I'll disconnect it up there, and then we'll just pull this up through. We are up top now, and here's our 10mm nut. So I'm just going to get a 10mm socket on there. with my impact. And just loosen that up. Don't lose that nut, because the new line does not come with a new nut. Oh, don't you fall. There we go. Got that. Set that aside safely. And now this should just pull right on up. And this is exactly what I did down below. So wiggle it, and then I'm just going to draw the whole thing out. There it is. And now let's get the other one, the new one, and we'll compare it. And you can see, now that we're out, hopefully you can see just how nasty that is right here. So it looks like it was actually leaking from up top, from this part here, and then running down that way, and then dripping. So here we go. We've got our Hyundai part right there. And you can see that this one ends in 2W801. I think this is updated. The original was like 800, ended 800. So I got an OEM. There are some aftermarket lines out there. I don't really trust them, so I went OEM. Now here's the deal. I had a little bit of an issue, so I ordered the part, or went to order the part. 3 local dealerships, I guess you could call it tri-state. New Jersey, Delaware, Pennsylvania, nobody had it, and Hyundai was telling me that it was on national back order. So that's not a good thing. So my first instinct was, what do I do now? I can't get the part. So what you could do is, if you have a place near you that makes or custom makes hydraulic lines, a lot of them can do these type of lines for AC systems. You'd have to bring it to them. So I thought, well, maybe, you know, that's an option. Let me get that greasy mess out of here. Or you could go online like I did and wait about 4 or 5 days. So I was fortunate enough to go online, find an OEM. By the way, I did match these up. Let me just double check here. Everything should be the same. Yes, everything here looks see. It comes with a new cap here for your valve. And let me see if there is a valve in there. Actually, there should be, I'd imagine. Let's make sure. Yes, the valve is built into there. That's a Schrader valve. So we're good there. Anyway, I was glad to get it, and hopefully this one won't leak. So let's take these caps off now. These are just protective caps. There's our new O-rings. I'll put a little bit of oil on there just so the O-ring slips in nice and easy. And then you have your other end down here. This goes down to the compressor. See, it's the same deal basically. Just push in one hole right there for the stud. Put your 10mm nut on there. You don't have to go ballistic on it. It's just torqued to a few pounds. No, I don't even think it's one ugga dugga. So what I'll do now off camera, actually, you know what I think I will do? Here's a good idea. I'm going to leave this bottom protector on, and here's why. Reason being, I've got to feed this down through the engine compartment, and the last thing I want is any crap to get in there. So good idea, keep this on, feed this down in there. I'll get it bolted in. You guys don't have to be bored with that. And then what I'll do is I'll turn the camera back on when everything's done. We'll evacuate the system and get to the next step. So after a few minutes here, I got the new line in. Let me take you over to the car. I'll show you. Here it is at the top. Shoots down that way. Let me get the phone and I'll show you from underneath. The new line's in down here, hooked to the compressor. I'm not going to kid you, that 10mm nut is a biscuit eater. It's not too bad to get off, but boy, I'll tell you what, when you've got to put that sucker back on, just getting it started, you know, getting it threaded on can be a little bit of a challenge. Where is that sucker? That little guy, oops, come on back. Come on, focus, focus, focus. There we go. That guy right there. Yeah, that's good stuff. Anyway, got it tightened down. I don't even think it's 5 or 10 foot-pounds. I mean, it's very light. You don't want to strip anything out. And then what I did was I wiped down this PAG oil that was all down on this thing. What I'll do is we're going to go fill the system now. Well, first we'll evacuate, but then I'll get this all buttoned back up afterwards. I just want to visually check it and make sure there's no leaks.